Too long, didn't read. This thing is awesome. If this is the kind of thing you think that you'll like it. Link in the description. Not affiliated, I'm just a huge fan. Go and buy it. You will not be disappointed. On the other hand, if you want to deep dive into the awesomeness that is the Pinter, let's go. So if you're already in the know with the Pinter from the Greater Good Fresh Brewing Company, you'll already know what we're looking at here. A love affair crossed with an obsession by two blokes to bring fresh brewing to the home. Simple, right? Yeah, if you'd call 700 plus prototypes simple. The Pinter also had a successful Kickstarter campaign with 789 backers, but had a whole host of pitfalls along the way, not least this COVID that everyone seems to be talking about. Yeah, well, that hit just at the point when they're about to go into full production for the original 789 backers. And this thing, with that, should not have got to market. But with that British stiff upper lip, they got there. Sadly, I wasn't one of the infamous 789. I missed out on the campaign by, well, something like about 12 hours, and since have watched their progress on Facebook and Instagram with bated breath. I was literally counting down the days for them to get this thing to market. In a nutshell, you can brew 10 pints of fresh beer at home within a matter of days. Hold on, did I just say beer? Correction, we're talking IPA, APA, lagers, and even cider. Why do I go all West Country when I say cider? Nothing like a nice bit of borderline offensive on-country stereotyping. So yeah, there's a load of different drinks that you can brew in this thing, and more to come in the future, it would seem. Not only that, but the brewing geeks on the Facebook group are already starting to play with brewing and conditioning times, with some of them, well, even setting up spreadsheets and comparing notes. You know who you are, and on behalf of the rest of us, I thank you and your unwavering obsessions, geeks. However, with all that said, let's take a look at how it comes and what you need to do. One word of warning, anyone looking to buy this as a Prezi for someone, yeah, there's no denying what it is. Seriously, this arriving at the door is like an event. Just me? Sorry, not sorry. No paper manual, far too cool for that. All instructions are online and they're 3D animations. The geeks are gonna love that too. It's huge and it's a box within a box for added protection. A bit like pass the parcel. I'm not passing it to anybody. Hands off, I've waited long enough for this. So in this first edition of the Pinter are the welcoming booklet and the fresh notes highlighting just a few of the benefits of the Pinter, along with an interview with the two founders and the master brewer. Then there's the brewing dock, the Pinter itself, and 2 Pinter packs to get you started. You can choose which ones you'd like from the range. I went for the Kraftwerk Pilsner and the Public House IPA. So armed with everything we need, we're off brewing. Actually, hold on, let's get those instructions up on my phone. I mean, they're so much more informative than a PDF. IKEA, are you taking notes? First section, purifying. Got to be clean, people. Has COVID taught you nothing? And this couldn't be easier. Pop off the handle and the front plate and keep them safe. You won't need these after this step until you're finished brewing and getting it in the fridge. We'll need the handles soon though, it's just for a second. Unscrew this main cap. It can be a bit tight at first, so a wooden spoon or something similar to help prise it open, that's fine. Make sure the dial is set to carbonated and then stand the whole thing up ready for purifying. In each pack, you'll get 3 bottles, one of which contains the purifier. Get that out and pour the granules into the Pinter, followed by hot water from the tap up to the middle of the red circle inside. Yeah, it wouldn't fit under my tap, so I used a big jug. Once filled to the red circle, replace the main cap and fold back the handle. I love this bit in the instructions. It literally stops you from moving on until you've double checked that you've properly sealed the unit. Once fully sealed, it's onto the section that I like to call the Pinter shake. As you can clearly see, I've never looked so good as I shake my beer maker. With the main bit cleaned, time to sort out the business end, the brewing dock. Now pay attention here, as it's pretty much the same process when brewing, except rather than losing a load of purifier, you'd be losing a load of potential drink if you mess this up, and no one wants that. To be fair though, it's not really that difficult. It just may be a little bit heavy at this point, but having just performed the Pinter shake, thank you, you'll have a decent enough read of the weight of this when it's full. So just like in the instructions, A goes to the number 1. Push down, and then while keeping that downward pressure, rotate A to the number 2 position. Simple. Then turn the whole thing the other way around and count to 10. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3. Mississippi's for accuracy on a scientific level. 9 Mississippi, 10 Mississippi. With 10 Mississippis passed, transfer to the sink, and again, this is the same as after the brewing process in the same inversion, so this is pretty good practice. Rotating back to the number 1 position, the pinter comes free from the brewing dock and you can lift it off and set it aside on the draining board. Get the tap back on momentarily to pull through some of the purifier for 5 Mississippis to clean out that bit. Then open up the main tank, making sure these two bits stay together, as they're proper important for the brewing process and how the tank integrates with the brewing dock beneath it and all that. Proper important is a technical term. I know this in particular because one of the fellas in the Facebook group brewed accidentally without this and it didn't turn out too good. I wasn't lying before, I've literally consumed everything I could over the past year about the pinter. Well, apart from an actual pint, that is. So with the main cap off, pour out the rest of the purifying liquid from the brewing dock and the rest out of the main tank. No need to rinse, in fact rinsing at this stage could well contaminate, so yeah, don't do it. On to the wizardry. So with everything sparkly clean, the pinter back on the deck and the 2 remaining bottles from the pinter pack. That's the yeast and the fresh press. As you've no doubt noticed, I'm going for the Public House IPA for my first brew. I'm a huge fan of IPAs and craft ales in general, so yeah, I had to go with that. Making sure the dial is set to carbonated, fresh cold water up to the red circle, and in goes the yeast. This looks exactly like the purifying granules, and I noticed that some of them were actually sticking on the inside of the bottle. Now, I ain't going without any, so I dropped in the tiniest bit of water and gave it a bit of a shake, and yeah, gotta get that yeast. Onto the IP fresh press, and I made sure I got every little bit of that too. Every last drop. Main cap back on and then tighten that down. The instructions stop you again like at the purifying stage to make sure it's totally correct. We don't want any wastage at this point, do we? What's next? Oh yeah. After that bit of excitement, calm your nerves, we're getting our brew on. This time, invert the pinter over the brewing dock. Align A with 1, push down and rotate to 2, just like we were when we were purifying. You see what I mean about the purifying stage being like a bit of a dress rehearsal? No, it's handy, kind of gives you a bit of a heads up of what's to come. Listen to the gurgling as the brewing dock fills. I think that's right. It is. And then, well, nothing really. Move the whole thing out of the way, somewhere that it can sit for the required time at room temperature. Too hot or too cold at this point and it could kill the yeast. So we're looking for pretty much Goldilocks, just right conditions. In the living room or just somewhere nice and warm is fine. After the required brewing time, whether you're following the times on the front of the fresh press bottle, the longer times on the back, or the times the geeks on the group have worked out, it's time to get your pinter and go back to the sink. Link in the description to the Facebook page, by the way. Back at the sink, holding it firmly at the brewing dock, rotate the pinter back to release it. You may want to be pressing down a little too, as, yeah, it came off with a little bit of force with all that, you know, carbonation through the brewing. Then lift off the main unit, leaving the brewing dock to continue to foam a bit. Oh God, that smells so good. I'm not gonna lie, it really did. Rinse out the dock a few times with clean water and set that aside. Then it's back on with the front plate and the tap. I found this a little bit fiddly and I had to pull the nubbin forward a little bit, but yeah, that's fine. It wasn't anywhere near forward enough to let any beer flow out. Huh? Nubbin? No? Fair enough. With that done, it was off to the fridge to condition the freshly brewed IPA. Would it fit in my fridge lengthways? Nope. Hey ho, sideways it goes and left to condition for what turned out to be 4 days. According to the instructions, the longer you leave it to condition, the clearer it will be and a more rounded flavour. I could not wait. 4 days later, it was Saturday and I wanted some IPA. So out of the fridge we come, nice and gentle and placed on the side. Now, especially because I moved it out of the fridge, I left it there for about an hour just to let everything settle, and then onto the tapping. That's when you let the pressure out for the first time, and if it's not done right, it can be pretty volatile. So nice and easy, taking my time, Every time I heard a hiss, I stopped and waited for it to abate before I carried on. Wait. A little bit more. And again. Just like when you open a bottle of fizzy drink that's been shook about a bit, slow and very steady avoids any spillage. So with that out of the way, the skies cleared outside as if the universe knew exactly what we were in for. Just one more thing to do. Pull off the first half pint or so and discard that, as it's going to contain a lot of the remaining sediment. I'll spare you that footage. It's been deleted. I don't want you to have to witness me wasting beer. It really wasn't easy. On to the first pull, and I've got to say, this came out lovely. Decent head and good carbonation. Now, some would complain that it isn't clear. Well, first off, that comes generally when conditioning it in the fridge for longer, along with, well, apparently, a more rounded flavour. But let's face it, you can get 4 cans of clear lager from Aldi from around £2. Clear as you like, but it doesn't mean it's any good. What's more, a good deal of craft ales that I've tasted aren't clear either, even in a pub. This doesn't necessarily mean that they're cloudy from sediment or anything. Furthermore, depending on the temperature that you're serving at, you can get a slight haze on the beer for how cold it is. I wasn't bothered, it doesn't affect the taste, and I wasn't waiting any longer for any longer conditioning. No. Actually, neither were certain family members that found out what was going on in my kitchen. First off, my mother-in-law got in on the action, thanks Lynn, reliving her barmaid days. I mean, reliving those days right down to the fact that she didn't even drink it herself, she just passed it over to her fella, my father-in-law, Joey. What do you reckon, lad?
It's like having your own pub in your own back kitchen. No more supermarket beer for me. From now on, I'm sticking with this.
He's available if anyone's looking to cast for advertising. Then it was my wife Emma's turn. She liked it. Then my mum stopped by.
That's lovely.
It is, ma'am.
It's like bud, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Hoppy.
Anything else?
Hoppy.
Good. Anything more?
Hoppy.
Okay, thanks.
Very hoppy.
That's enough. And finally, my stepfather and current Brain of Mentor 2020 finalist. He had to have something to say about it.
Oh yes, it is. It is good. I like it. You can tell it's an IPA. It's got it's not completely smooth like some bitters are. It's just got a hint of, that's right, probably acidity, and that's what makes it refreshing though, if you have it on a warm day.
And with that, that's all there is, I guess. No, I actually mean it, that's all. I did plan to have a glass of it here, so I could finish and raise a glass and say cheers, but they drank it all. Yeah, okay, I had a few too. I gotta say, it's well worth it, and it's changed the way I'm gonna be enjoying drinking at home, well, for the foreseeable future. In fact, Emma liked it so much, she's already asked if we're gonna get another one so we can have one brewing at all times. And can we get some ciders? There I go again. One thing's for certain, the Pinter is a winner in our eyes. And for what it's worth, the customer service and after sales seems to be top notch. Personally, I've experienced no problems with my unit, but looking in the Facebook group I mentioned earlier, link below, I've seen a few members post a few little niggles here and there, and the Greater Good Brewing Company are on it, right in there in the group with a fix or a replacement part, fresh presses, or even a full unit. This is a brand new, innovative take on brewing, and they're clearly in it for the long haul. It's fresh, it's great quality, and what's more, the carbon footprint for 10 pints out of the Pinter compared to the alternatives of bottles, cans, or even a keg at home, it's just so much more reduced. As I said, link below, they've all the stats on the CO2 levels and all that on the site too, along with the variety of colours that this comes in and all the different beers and ciders you can currently choose from, with more, as I said earlier, to come. Watch this space and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates I may have in the future. Kraftwerk Pilsner next for me. But with that said, as always, my name's Adam, this is Musing of a Man. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.
Very hoppy.
Thanks, man.